Single and Loving It is a great book. I started reading it, I think, at around 1, and by 5 I was done. It's very relatable, and it put a lot of things in perspective for me. Pastor Mantsha's humor is out of this world. She's hectic. She's very funny, and it's relatable, and
I think it's actually quite a good book. I think it's something that people in our churches need to read. People in our families need to read, because then they'll know how to be sensitive to the needs, and just how to speak to single people, how it's the small things that you do without knowing that really just hurts or irritates in a way. So I really love the book. I love the fact that the Pastor Mantsha is so candid in the book, and she just opened up her life for all of us, but in her life we see a bit of ourselves.
So yes, this has been a book that we've been waiting for. It's an amazing book, well written, very truthful, very honest. I think as the body of Christ, we needed to hear such. So well done to Pastor Mantsha. So yes, I'm excited, and all the best, Pastor Mantsha, with the book. May it go to as many people as it can. I hope a lot of people will have an opportunity to grab the book and read it and grow, and let's change the status quo.
But as somebody who has read it, I laughed more than I cried. It is very honest, very, very honest. So if you're not ready to look in the mirror, it's going to be tough for you. But it's also relatable. So I hope every one of you will take the time to actually read this book. I hope Pastor Mantsha covers everything. Now I want real answers. Because now I was in this book like it's my life in it. The first question I think I have is why did you feel the need to write it? Because I think as a writer myself, there are lots of ideas and there are lots of things I go through, but I don't feel the need to write certain things. Why did you feel the need to write this book?
Thank you for coming. Whether I felt the need or not is, she said I must be honest, and if I'm not real and honest, she'll ask again. So I must try my best to be real and honest. So I actually started writing this book 10 years ago. I remember my first draft. If Mwaku was here, she actually read that initial draft. In that draft, I was saying I'm turning 30 in a few years. And if you know how old I am, you know that it was a long time ago. So I wanted to write a book that I wished I had read when I was much younger. I came into Christianity with a view that generally when people get into relationships, they've heard from the Lord, they've heard from the Holy Spirit, and I didn't have that experience in my own life. It appeared that relationships for me were some kind of trial and error, and more error than trial. So, that's why I wrote it. I wrote it because I felt if someone else saw that this is how it's like, whether or not it's supposed to be like that, please don't ask me, I don't know, then they would actually be free to do what God has called them to do.
Okay. Now, you say a lot of things in the book, and you share a lot of examples in the book, but you also state that you're not telling anyone what to do. But there must be some things we can do that you should actually just point blank say, because you're Pastor Mantsha, you tell it like it is. So are there things that you feel like should be cemented for single people, even outside of the church? What should we be doing to be more successful in living single lives or fulfilling single lives?
I think you should never look at yourself and define yourself by your marital status. I think for me, that was the main message that I wanted the book to tell. To say, the fact that you are married, you're single, you're divorced, you're widowed, shouldn't play a role. The question that we should always ask ourselves is, why am I here? What is my purpose? What does God want from my life? And if you check how society is like, most of us don't do certain things because we think I'll only do these things when I'm married, or I'll only do these things when I have children. I think I do give a few examples in the book where I say, even when I used to drive a Corsa and I wanted to upgrade to a better car and I wanted to buy a house, my mother actually would not have it. And she was like, but how are you going to get married if you have this car and you have this house? And a lot of people who are unmarried put their lives on hold because they think, I will only do this when I'm married. So for me, I think that's the main message. There are a lot of people that wish to get married that are not married. I mean, I remember, I don't want to mention names, but I see some people, how we used to say, if I'm not married by the time I'm 30, if I'm not married by the time I'm 35, and where we are right now, we are just like, let your will be done, Lord, in the name of Jesus. So, and I think the reason why we had those, I'll call them ultimatums, is because I don't want to lie to you. I never, in my wildest dreams, imagined that I could be 38, like me, 38, and unmarried. And I know I speak about it, I laugh about it, but the reality is, when I'm alone, I'm just like, yo, Mantsha, even that one got married and you are not married, and that one got married and you are not married. So we can sit like this and laugh about it, but the reality is, especially when you don't have a child, because you sit there and you are like, there is this imaginary, it's not imaginary. There's this biological clock. Mine has ticked and stopped. You know how your alarm, you snooze it, you snooze it. And then at some point, the alarm just says, this person is not cooperating, I'm not going to ring anymore. Because they tell you at 35, you should be done. And I passed 35 a while back. So all those questions, what I'm basically saying is, you may not have what you want, but that should not stop you from living your best life.
Now, you're talking about having children. Now I have a son. He's 8. Ne? Leroy is trying to hook me up on dates. So I don't know who's struggling more here, me or you. My 8-year-old will walk up to a stranger and say, hi, you're good looking. Would you like to go out on a date with my mom?
But you have help. You should be grateful.
Sorry. No, not that kind of help. Because now what is that brother thinking? How bad is it that her 8-year-old is the one coming to us? But now, embarrassing stories aside, weren't you afraid of the backlash that would come with sharing all of these honest stories? Because you said all the stories in your book are based on real life characters. Were you not afraid that those people are now cringing, or did you think they wouldn't touch a copy of the book?
I'm hoping they're not readers. Two of my friends, I think one is here, but in the interest of anonymity as it appears in the book,
They're both
I will
here.
not mention.
No, they're both here. You just have to pick.
Yeah. So the version of the book you see now, I mean, this book, when I thought I was ready to take it for printing, I had a lot of people saying, you have to change this, you have to change that. This cannot go out. There will be no church after this. So I had to edit and re-edit and re-edit. But one of the things that they then asked me to do was to call some people that maybe are prominent in the book. And they felt very strongly that the people should be told about the book.
The leading characters. So, Una leading protagonist, leading antagonist. That's what you're saying. That we can now go on Facebook and see the characteristics and Google.
I will take my right to be silent on that one. So, I mean, I actually, after lots of protesting, I actually did call and mention that, you know what, I'm writing a book. I explained. I'm writing a book about my life, Mantsha's life, Mantsha's single life. You just happened to have been there. But the book is not about you. So two people in particular, one was like, oh, sure, thanks for the heads up. I was like, great, you're born again, you are a Christian. Well, the second one, I don't really want to get into the answer, but we're still praying about it.
Okay, no, that's good enough for me. You were really close to your mommy. So what do you think your mom, a very vocal self, would say about this book?
Yeah, Mohadi must also grab a mic and answer this one, wherever she is. I don't think my mom would be surprised because she knows the type of person that I am. But I also think the fact that she's not here makes it easy to write. So, yeah, because it's, actually it was Shivu Nana who read. She's my niece. who read the first 2 chapters. And she wrote, I think her review is somewhere up there, and she said, I am shocked that Sis Mantsha is human. Because you actually don't realize that your family members also see you as the minister. You always think, but you guys, you know me. You know, you see me when I'm upset. I'm not always preaching at home. Actually, I hardly preach at home. So I think my mom would have been surprised because some of the things she didn't know them. But I think she was a brave woman. So she would know that I get it from her. So yeah, I think she would have been happy. Where's Mohadi? Arabe. Mohadi, what do you think? About the book. What did she say? I didn't hear. Well, I think that's true. Officially, you're telling people that you're happy about it. So basically, that means that's Mohadi's view.
That's good.
Okay, so what do you think women about
Same.
So your answer is PC. Their answer feels more real.
She's not here, so it's fine.
This book was very personal for you, but you also talk about the church and how it perpetuates negative stereotypes about singleness. What do you think we, as the congregants of the church, can do to practically break that cycle?
I mean, I think it's just how we do church, what we put an emphasis on. When you read novels, they will talk about a concept of happily ever after. But that concept is only reserved for people in relationships. If you don't have a husband, or you don't have a boyfriend, or you don't have a wife or girlfriend, that's not for you. So the question is, if that's what the world says, what does the church say to the single person? So I think, for me, when I read scriptures like Jeremiah, where it says, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you, I ordained you. So, which means God's purpose does not depend on marital status. I read my entire Bible, and when I read it, yes, the Bible here and there will speak about marriage, it will speak about people's wives. But I mean, I always laugh at the fact that the disciples were with Jesus that entire time. They never said, kilo cheka. They never said, there's quality time. You know, the only time that we actually heard that Peter had a wife was because the mother-in-law was sick. But otherwise, we never had, no, we took 3 months, 2 weeks off so that people can go and see their wives. But you know, in our society, quality time, it's such a big thing. Things like, if you're not married, even when we do picnics for families, and we forget that there are actually other people who are just alone in these picnics. I remember I went to Rema once, and when I got to church, during communion, they said, go to your family and have communion with your family members. And then I was like, okay, so if you don't have a family, what do you do? So I just think, as the church, we know how it's like out there. We know that a lot of single people are alone, and they shouldn't have to feel alone in the church. So as pastors, and I'm a pastor as well, so it's my role. As pastors, how do we involve single people in the church? How do we involve single parents in the church, people who are widowed? And how do we actually start to see beyond their marital status and just see them as individuals, as people?
But isn't there now a problem, ne? Because look at Tsulu. Tsulu is a yellow bone. Tsulu is pretty. Tsulu now wants to serve at church. And then Tsulu also wears tight skirts. I can last one skirt is like a tight wrong. Now, what I read in the book and what I picked up was that people also have a problem with single people serving. How do we break those myths? How do we debunk all of that junk that's filling people's minds in the church?
I mean, I think the reason why you like to dress like this is not because you're single. It's because it's your preference.
Yes.
So there are women, whether married or single, that like to dress like you, not like me, in tight things.
Yeah.
And the fact that you are, so when if you are in my church,
yeah,
and in my church we don't want tight things. I should not address you like you are single and you are trying to entice other people's husbands. I should address you like, Tulu, you are a woman, you are looking too sexy for church. We can't have this in our church. So that you don't feel attacked as a single person. You realize that I'm addressing you as a person. And I think once we start to do those things, and we have to be intentional about it. It's not something that comes easily to us. And then we won't have this wives versus single people, divorced versus undivorced, if there's such a word. So we'll just have women in the church. We'll just have men in the church. Some of them, in as much as they happen to be working and others are not, some have businesses, others are not. In the same way, some are married and others are not. Some are mothers and others are not. If we can begin to teach ourselves to look at it like that, I think the church will be an easier place for both wives and non-wives, if there's such a word.
Non-wives, yeah. Now, I'm going to ask you a tricky question, because I'm actually young and spunky in the church. Are there alternative forms of singleness, in your opinion, that we can carry in the church? Because in your book, you talk about what's the stance when you never want to get married? Because some people never want to get married, but they want to have children, or you never want to get married, but you want to feel like you're in a family setting. Can we set up communes? I don't know. Are there alternative forms of singleness, in your opinion, that we can start practicing?
So even when Tulu was briefing me, I'm telling you guys now, I'm not answering Tulu. when she was briefing me about this question, I was like, what do you mean, Tulu? What are alternatives? I'm old-fashioned, guys. I'm not like Tulu. So I'm not even going to answer Tulu. I'm going to address this to all of you, because I don't want to be put under pressure. So the thing with Christianity is, whatever solution that you're going to come up with as a single person, it has to include abstinence. And the question that I have when you decide never to get married is, in that decision, you're also taking a decision never to have sex. Is that the decision that you want to take? Because a lot of people are happy taking the decision not to be married. But they're just like, no sex for the rest of my life. Is that option available for you to look at her blush?
I was asking for the message.
I am also
I don't remember ever saying I want to be alternatively single. No, I'm just putting it out there because the masses want to know.
So that's the challenge. And I think, I don't speak as an authority on abstinence and on issues of sex.
Are there authorities on abstinence?
If there are, I'm not one of them. So, but the reality is, and I speak about it in the book, that when you are in your 20s, how you manage your sexuality is different from how you manage it when you are in your 30s. So when we are in our 20s, because remember, you're like, marriage is at the door. At that time, 6 people are asking you out. It's like John, Jack, Jill. Oh, no, Jill. Okay, John, Jack. Okay, maybe Jill for some people. So what keeps you as a single Christian woman who wants to abstain? Whether you're abstaining or not is a different issue, but you want to abstain. As a single, what keeps you is, I am just about to get married, a few more years. But when you are 38, you sort of like, no, this thing can actually take much longer. So now the challenge is, the last time anybody spoke to me about Mantsha, this is how you abstain, is when I was in my 20s. Now when I'm in my late 30s, and maybe in the horizon there's no hope of marriage. Not only that, I see women who are 50 and single and praying and hoping. And I'm just like, the struggle is real. So any alternative single lifestyle has to include abstinence for the Christian. And for me, abstinence goes beyond just having sex. It's just how you live. What do you do with your sexual desires? What do you do with that need to be cuddled? When you look like you don't have it?
No, rock solid.
Like when you are like me. So, and I think those are the conversations that are not happening in the church. At church, they will speak to you about sexuality when you are a young adult. The next time when they talk to you about it is when you're pregnant. It's when you have been. So now all the people who are having sex but not getting pregnant. Basha, just be pregnant when it was over. So those are some of the conversations that are difficult. I mean, I also speak as a pastor. Those are conversations that even when you are trying to have those conversations with people, it's hard because you don't have answers. And when a person says, but I want to have sex, pastor, I used to have sex, I want to have sex. What Masai says, the pastor, I just say, let's just open the book of Jeremiah. There's nothing else I can say.
No, that's not the way. I think I asked that question because as a young person, especially in this day and age, we're inundated with all sorts of messages. And not just be with someone, but be with someone, And so if those conversations aren't being had, like, okay, maybe we should start a hiking club for when we're all on heat. I think those are the kind of things that should be discussed. You laugh now.
The struggle is real.
But the struggle is real. What do you do? Where do you find a community of single people who are going to say, yo, guy, this month was rougher than last month, And so I'm hoping that this question will then incite all of you to think about it. Like, what can we do to actually band together more, as single people? Yeah, and how we can start prayer groups.
Because imagine if we were at intercession.
Yes.
And someone raised the prayer item, Bazalwani, I'm really struggling, I want to have sex. Please pray with me so that I don't. The prayer meeting will shut down. They will be like, in Jesus' name, come out in the name of Jesus, come out in But the reality of our lives as single people is that's what single people go through.
Yes.
And they want to do the right things. I think there are very few people who wake up saying, I just want to wrong God today. Most people, they fall into temptations, not because they wanted to. But as a church also, we're just not providing that cushion for them. There's no place. I do get some people coming to me, but I know that for that person to come, they've had to think hard. And at least they console themselves. But Mantsha is also single.
And long.
Yes. So, yeah.
Okay. So, as we were talking before, I said to you, we could focus on so many negative things that put us in a vulnerable position to find ourselves falling for temptation. But what is the role of wholeness as a person, wholeness, in dating or in living a single life?
So I think, for me, I take it back to Genesis. When you look at Genesis and when God was creating us, God says, let us create men in our image and according to our likeness. And he says, male and female, he created them, which means all of us, both men and women, were created in the image and likeness of God. So when I think about the concept of wholeness, when I read that verse, I realize that there's no way that God could have created something like him that was incomplete. That what God created at the beginning was complete. So the concept of the significant other, the better half, is a nice sounding concept, but it's not true. If you walk into a marriage feeling insignificant, thinking another person is bringing the significance into your life, you're actually setting yourself up for failure. So whether you are married or single, you need to understand that I'm whole, I'm complete. If you die single, understand that it's not that I've missed out, because some people will die single. Hopefully none of you here. Yeah, so let me know.
Not me, I repeat that spirit. No.
At least you are not saying back to sender. So we need to, and the thing is, the messaging that we get, that you will only be happy when you are in a relationship, is so consistent that one book is not going to change it. So my desire or my wish or my prayer as I write the book is that in our corners where we are, we may begin to change the messaging. Because if I'm 38 and maybe Dineo is 24 and my Mwanamuntu is 1, and all of them are still hearing the message that our grandparents had about what it means to be whole as a woman, what it means to be whole as a man, then this problem will not go away. So we need to be consistent. I mean, in most churches, because I'm single, I also happen to speak to single people in the church. So if they're having a service for the singles, they invite me. And if the singles are going to camp, I also write about this in the book. If the singles are going to camp, I mean, I'm almost 40, guys. We still go to those camps where we are on bunk beds. And then now must climb over another 40-year-old to go to sleep. Ne? But when the married people go to they don't go to camp. They go to a couples retreat. And it's a 5-star, but there's a star. Right now where we are, there's no star. And they will lump us together with the 20-year-olds. I don't have anything in common with the 20-year-olds. Nothing. They must call me mama, all the 20-year-olds. So as the church and as society, especially as black society, we need to keep emphasizing the message that you are okay. I mean, there was a time when I stopped going to, okay, Slelo is here. And Nali Slelo, we are the same age, and both of us are single, we both don't have children. I don't know if that was a secret, Slelo. Okay, Selaelo, she always says I call her name wrong. And most times when we're at home, they would always ask us, Linyalwani. Linya, what was that promotion? You know, so in our society, there's always that pressure or that desire that, you know what, for as long as you don't have your own family, something is incomplete in your life. Then for me as well as a minister, it's the same thing. Other people feel like there's a certain level of anointing that you cannot reach if you are not married.
I know the scripture also on which they base this lie, but carry on.
No, I'm done.
So now I'm 30. I turned 30 this year. It was tough for me. I went through a meltdown of note, I think a month before my birthday, because I realized in May that I was still not married, and everyone was looking at me asking when Leroy was going to have a little brother or sister, because clearly he's ready, right? And then my stepfather came to me one morning, and then he said, no, Solomon, what's about the problem with you is you have high standards. Are, you'll never find 100% man. Or even 70 is a pass, right? So he says this to me, and then I'm embarrassed because I'm like, yeah, maybe my standards are too high. Maybe it's me. Maybe the problem is me. As you get older, do you then feel the need to drop your standards? Because now the men are getting smaller, the group smaller.
Hey, Luwen, that's Luwen, your question.
How I can remember
You are supposed to be on my side.
I am on your side. I'm also single. I'm loving it.
So I think the older you get, you realize that some of the things that you called standards were just, number one, either nice to haves, or they really didn't mean anything. I always give an example that when we were at church and we had just started working and some of us were still struggling with school, there was one guy who had a car. And all the girls liked him, all the girls. I won't say at which church we were at. People can just speculate which church it was at. And he looked like the most handsome guy at the time. Not to me, I heard people saying. And he was the most in-demand guy. Fast forward about 5 years, almost all the guys have cars. And all of a sudden, it's not according to me, according to those people who were telling me, all of a sudden he was not the most handsome person. So imagine at that time, if on your list you had a car, and the only thing that disqualified all the other guys was the fact that they didn't have cars. So when we were young, we used to have things like that. I see some people here who I won't mention, others are hiding as soon as I see them. That one who is hiding will know that people speak about concepts of, we don't want half sizes. They call a man a half size if he's short. When you are 40, you are like in Siboya Washa. So, but the fact that he's short, who cares?
point. Our children
You
will
can
be
just
midgets.
make small little midgets in the house. So those are some of the superficial things that were on our lists that now they just fall off. You're just like, huh? Now I
Must have dimples. Baba.
for what? Now there's only one thing on the list.
Man of God.
No. There's only one thing on the list. Do you want to hear the one thing on the list? He must be sane.
Sane.
Sane. That's it.
Our mancha. Sane.
That's it. He must just be normal. He must be sane. Aska hafa. The rest, we will deal with them with prayer.
Mara mancha.
That's it.
You can medicate a crazy person. Oh.
So look, speak to me when you're 38.
No.
If you are single, he must just be sane.
He
The
must
rest,
just be sane.
he doesn't have a job, we'll deal with it. He's broke, we'll
We'll
deal
deal-
with it.
Oh,
He's
oh,
fat, so they are gym together. Oh, he's short. They have these things that you can put in a shoe that take you up a bit. Or he'll always stand on the stair when we are taking pictures. Every other thing can be dealt with, except sanity. Yeah, that one I'm not, even when I'm 60, that one I'm not going back.
Watch out. Rattling nothing. Rattling nothing. No medication can help sanity.
No sanity, or not. Yeah.
Maranong man of God we be like because now is the only one I'm holding on to. So what are you saying to me?
Hold on to yours, I hold on to mine.
Yeah, it's rough here.
Have you ever seen a crazy man of God? Making people eat grass. That's your potion.
Manja. Okay, thanks. I'm going to review my list
Reconsider.
later. Yeah. So we're sitting here in a panel with only women, but I guess there's two of us, so it makes sense. But I want to ask, is this book written specifically for women or is it written for men?
So it's for both. And I do hope more men read it because I think I speak as a woman. Even when I try to put myself in the shoes of a guy, I can't. So because I'm the one that has written it, it will be in the voice of a woman. But I think I've tried so much to be as subjective as possible. Even where the stories are very personal, I've tried to take a step back to say, but you know what, Mantsha? When this happened, you cried foul. You know, you look like you've been dumped before, so I think you'll know what I'm talking about.
Sorry? What does that look like?
That one.
Now woman have got makeup on, you can't see those things.
You know, I'm not speaking from experience. But you know, if they dump you,
Yeah.
especially when the breakup catches you off guard. I don't know this personally, guys. I've heard them say it. So if the breakup catches you off guard,
Yeah.
at that point where you are heartbroken and it hurts, you don't see clearly. You can see everything that the person that has broken your heart has done, every wrong thing, how much of a dog or a pig or whichever animal you choose, you know, they are. But after a couple of years, if you still feel like that, then you probably need this sanity thing. Because at some point, when the emotions are no longer so high, you should be able to see your role in the relationship.
Yes.
And with this book, that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to describe what happened, and then I've taken a step back. Some of the stories happened a long time ago. Take a step back and begin to say, if you are in this situation, maybe consider this. Maybe do things this way. Maybe the girl could have done things like this, or the guy could have been upfront, or whatever the case is. So I actually don't know what I'm answering anymore.
Men, women.
Yeah, so it's for both. And I also think it helps us as women, because sometimes as friends, when your friend is hating, it's very difficult to be objective. Because if you went after a guy and got him interested in you, you were in a relationship for a month, after a month, he doesn't want you anymore. When you come back to explain to me how much of a dog he is, I should say, but my friend, this guy didn't want you. You were the one that was after him. So maybe he just went back to his original decision. So maybe he's not that much of a dog. You just pushed him too hard and he couldn't say no. But I think the challenge with us, whether it's as men or as women, is we're not having those honest conversations with each other. You think you're wronged, your friends agree with you, and no one is actually saying to you, but my friend, you know that guy was not interested in you, you kept making your skirts tighter and shorter, and the poor guy could not see properly anymore, and he ended up saying yes. Maybe just wear track pants, so that when he says yes, he's really saying yes to you and not to your clothes. Then, yeah, so I'm hoping that it will help both men and women. And I'm hoping that a lot of churches will read it.
Can everybody take a copy for their church?
Yeah, for their pastor.
And then, so when you are out on these marriage streets, you know, because now we have left the single life. This is our seed. We have sown it. Now we're opening new doors. We've closed this chapter. Can we expect a book about marriage also?
If there's laughing it in that marriage.
How, Mara, even hating it, we want to learn.
Yo, you want me to just be married for a brief period? So, I mean, I think, towards the end of the book, I actually do something that maybe I shouldn't have done. But I do speak a little bit to married people. I speak about a lot of things that happen in relationships that we think are rights, time. I give a simple example that if your boss, your husband has a deadline at work and he has professed that you are the most important thing in his life, when he has a deadline, the deadline is more important than you. And sometimes we don't realize that. We fight battles we don't have to fight. So just because I'm unmarried does not mean I don't know marriage. I do know marriage. I'm exposed to marriage, good and bad. And yeah, I think I spoke about it a little bit, but yeah, I'm hoping as I continue, even if I never get married, I can write married from marriage from the outside.
Yeah, aerial view of marriage.
Yes.
Success stories. I can you pull on.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. No, that ends it for our interview section. Can we please give Pastor Mantsha a warm round of applause?
Hi, Pastor Mantsha. It's Nozipo here, and thank you for writing this book. I think literally every church should have this book because it addresses the issues that the church has been quiet about and people have been suffering. And I think it brings a lot of healing and a lot of teaching to people how to treat single people and for single people to know their callings and be proud of themselves. So everybody, literally every church should have this book as part of their library list.
This was an amazing book. I enjoyed reading it. I'm still enjoying reading it. To everyone who knows about this book, I encourage you to buy it. It is an amazing book for young people, old people, single, married, men, women, everybody. Buy it. I bet you will enjoy it.
It really enlightened me, even if I'm a married person, but I took some things from it. Thank you so much for the thoughts and the profound ways you are able to explain it. And I would say to single and even married people, young, old, to get the copy, because it highlights certain things that no one has ever spoken about. This conversation that we can start with our kids, conversation we can start with our teen boys or teen girls. So I think it's a good read for everything as it builds relationships. And thank you so much for it.
The phrase that I like from your book is to make women understand that they are whole, even if they are not married. As a brother, a father, an uncle, I also want to sell the book through to the people that I work with. I will be able to use it also in my ministry with my wife, and hopefully God blesses you.
So this has been an amazing launch of Single and Loving It. More than the launch of the book, what we're trying to do is to get us as a society to start thinking about and speaking about these issues. So please be on the lookout. We'll be having workshops. We'll be talking about these things. We'll be talking to young people, to old people, families, single people. We need to talk about love. And we need to encourage each and every one of us to be single and to love it, to be fulfilled, to be happy, and to pursue your purpose. Thank you for the support. It's been amazing, and we look forward to a great journey with you and the book. Thank you.